"What's going on here?" asks the manager. "She won't let us sit down," this woman added. "We would like to go sit down." "But Mr. Batten," I responded, referring to his given name. I declared, "It's Hitchcock." You understand, through the Carol Burnett show, Carol Burnett made America laugh for a lifetime. Her admirers have always thought that she never harbored resentment and that her generosity had no bounds. However, in her 90s, she disclosed an unexpected fact. She truly detested some males. Men who attempted to steal the works that created her legacy, denigrated her in secret, and humiliated her in public. Who were they? And what caused a graceful woman to harbor animosity for the rest of her life? You'll be shocked by the answers when we find out. Marlon Brando, the legend who went too far, is number 1. Carol was never able to forgive. Let's begin with the most well-known person on Carol Burnett's blacklist. The one that everyone is familiar with. Marlon Brando. That Brando, indeed. The legend, the idol, the man who, for some reason, greatly offended Carol to the point where she would never again stand in the same room with him. Everyone says the same thing when they hear this portion of her story. Hold on, Brando. How in the world did he do that? This is what really took place. It's worse than the rumors, I assure you. It was the summer of 1972, only a few months after Brando had become a god among actors thanks to The Godfather. Carol's housekeeper woke her up from her slumber at home because the phone kept ringing. The first thing Carol heard when she answered was a calm, laughing voice. "This is Marlon Brando, Carol," she knew instantly. "I have been observing you." She initially thought someone was making an impression, so she laughed. Brando enjoyed pulling practical jokes. Hollywood cherished first impressions. However, he said something that made her smile vanish. "If you relax like the actresses I've worked with, you would be much better." It wasn't a compliment. When a powerful man believed he was untouchable, he would say something like that. It was a loaded remark. Carol hung up the phone as politely as she could, but she was trembling. The following morning was the actual shock. In a late-night talk, Brando had commended Carol's femininity, according to a Hollywood writer who called her publicist. It was leaked by someone. Carol was caught off guard. Brando further exacerbated the situation. He grinned and remarked, "She took it too seriously," in response to a journalist's question on the veracity of the rumor. Women comedians are sensitive. Carol knew then that she was dealing with something else than admiration. She was interacting with a man who made fun of her. 2 days later, she confided in a friend, saying, "I felt small and I've spent my whole life fighting not to feel small." Carol's PR team had a rule going forward. "I won't be there if Brando is." For the next 30 years, she meant it. Cary Grant comes in second. The dude from Hollywood who made fun of her in public. The one name on Carol Burnett's hate list that people don't want to believe is Cary Grant. Hollywood's refined gentleman, the endearing star with impeccable diction and suits. The night he cut her down in front of the most influential room in the business is something Carol will never forget. The incident took place at a Beverly Hilton banquet in 1968, where everyone feigned to love one another. Carol has recently emerged as the comic love interest of America. Grant was sitting like a king or queen at the center table, accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award. Carol came over to congratulate him after the ceremony. She appeared bright, at ease, and totally oblivious of the storm she was about to enter. Beside Grant, a director made an effort to strike up a conversation. "Cary, you've seen Carol's show, right?" he asked in jest. "The entire nation is laughing at her." Grant never missed a beat. He grinned and added, "Laughing at what?" loudly enough to be heard from other tables. She made faces while waving her arms about. "Why people find that enticing is beyond me." Carol froze. She didn't have thin skin. Even though she had previously been heckled, this movie star was making fun of her profession. He had to do that, but why? She maintained her composure. She did it every time. However, as she started to leave, Grant leaned over to Elizabeth Taylor and said the words that permanently put him on Carol's blacklist. She is not an actual actor. She is a fortunate housewife. That was cruelty disguised as style. Carol didn't dispute. She was not required to. For months, Hollywood spoke about that evening. I didn't hate him for disliking my comedy, she later confided in a close friend. He said it to make me look foolish, and I detested that. Carol was asked to co-star with him in a musical comedy by Paramount 2 years later. She declined right away. It was a career-making opportunity, according to her team. Every time the topic came up, she would say the same 7 words. I refuse to collaborate with a man who denigrates women. Carol never softened, and Grant never expressed regret. Third place goes to Lorne Michaels, the influential person who excluded Carol for half a century. Why did Lorne Michaels and Carol Burnett become rivals despite never having performed together? It's not a nice answer, and it's definitely not professional. One cruel comment Carol heard about him sparked their argument, and she never forgave him. The story starts in 1975, the year that Saturday Night Live debuted. With the Carol Burnett Show, Carol continued to dominate CBS. And the same thing was said by almost every critic. Carol is the one who deserves to host Saturday Night Live. That concept was never broadcast. It wasn't due to scheduling or Carol's lack of enthusiasm. The true cause was revealed during a confidential meeting held at NBC. An editor made the straightforward suggestion, what about Carol Burnett, at a pitch session for season 2? She would be a historic figure. According to reports, Lorne leaned back, shook his head, and uttered the words that went viral on NBC, not her. She represents vintage television. Over my lifeless body. Is it severe, in your opinion? Of course. He wasn't done, though. Her kind of comedy makes us look outdated, he added, as a staff member later recounted. SNL is not a place to retire. Within days, Carol heard the words. She refrained from exploding, confronting him, or demanding a public apology. She just fell silent, completely silent. I spent my entire life opening doors for women in comedy, she later told them in private. He didn't even meet me before he slammed one shut. The feud became more bizarre throughout the years. NBC made an effort to feature Carol in the special commemorating the 10th anniversary. Lorne sent a handwritten note rejecting the proposal. Not funny, not relevant, not occurring. Carol never saw the note, but the narrative got to her, and that was sufficient. When asked in 2023 if she wished she had never hosted Saturday Night Live, she grinned and said, "They didn't need me, and I learned I didn't need them either." Carol's interpretation of a final punch was that, and they never got together. Harvey Korman, the dependable collaborator who crushed her heart on set, comes in at number 4. Carol Burnett's private list of individuals she came to dislike includes Harvey Korman at number 4. He was previously the last person anyone thought would harm her, which is astonishing. Their chemistry was praised by the audience. Hollywood believed that they were as close as 2 actors could be. Carol also believed this until one afternoon in 1974, when Harvey showed her a resentment she had never anticipated. Nothing out of the ordinary should have happened on the day of the explosion, which took place in Studio 33 during a regular rehearsal. Petula Clark had just completed her run-through. Harvey was getting ready for a humorous routine that he had performed countless times as the lighting crew was shifting positions. His mark was darkened by a small lighting error, and that small annoyance sparked something much more repulsive. Harvey yelled at the workers and threw his script to the ground. How difficult is it to execute this correctly? I'm sick of fixing her errors. Carol listened to every word. He was not referring to a light. He was referring to the woman who had provided him with a platform that made him a household name, as well as his companion and partner. There was silence in the room. Carol appeared shocked rather than outraged. "Harvey, why would you speak to them like that?" she murmured softly as she approached him with the composure of someone attempting to remain composed in front of her own team. Harvey refused to give up. Sharp and bitter, his voice soared. "Perhaps my time as second on the Carol Burnett Show is over." The shouting was not as painful as that sentence. It revealed a jealousy Carol had never thought he had. Then she moved away, went inside her dressing room, and shut the door. She sobbed within. Harvey apologized to her when he returned 3 days later, saying, "I forgot why I started doing comedy." Since she was naturally kind, she accepted it. However, she later said to Vicki Lawrence, forgiving him didn't fix what broke. The program made it through. But they didn't become pals. Jo Hamilton, the spouse who stole her work, comes in at number 5. Because Jo Hamilton betrayed her inside her own house, he ranks 5th on Carol Burnett's list of men she will never be able to forgive. He was well known throughout the world as her spouse, producer, and collaborator in creating one of the most cherished television programs. Eventually, Carol discovered that he was also the one subtly altering her legacy without getting her permission. Long after their marriage had begun to deteriorate, the drama commenced in 1982. While going through documents, Carol's attorney saw something strange. Jo had established a new business, Hamilton Productions, and listed a number of spin-off concepts derived from the Carol Burnett show's sketches under it. One of them was based only on Carol's distinctive character, Mama's Family. She was not, however, identified as a creator, contributor, or co-owner. Jo didn't say anything when Carol confronted him in their CBS office, anticipating a miscommunication. He reclined, crossed his arms, and uttered the exact words she would later repeat to friends. "The talent is you. The brain is me. I am capable in managing business." It was more than just conceit. It was an admission. He had intended to use her creations as his property while keeping his financial future apart from hers. Afterward, Carol said to Vicki Lawrence, "It felt like he'd taken my heart and stamped a logo on it." However, the true blow was still to come. A few weeks later, Carol heard 2 CBS staff members discussing Jo's new life with a younger editor he had been spotted eating with at the Showhouse restaurant in a hallway. She wasn't crushed by the adultery. It was acknowledging that it wasn't novel. While she was juggling the demands of the program and their family, the affair had been going on for years. She went home that evening, sat down at her dining table, and told herself the truth aloud. "The man I married is someone I don't recognize." Shortly later, the divorce was filed. Jo vigorously contested ownership of Carol's work, claiming he should have received the money from the very show she created from the ground up. She suffered both professionally and emotionally during the nearly year-long court battle. Carol was not present during Jo's 1991 funeral. In addition to white flowers, she wrote, "I wish you peace." However, she acknowledged in private that some wounds don't heal with time. They simply settle. The world laughed at Carol Burnett. She never displayed her wounds on television, but these 5 guys left her with them. Which betrayal, in your opinion, wounded her the most after all you've heard? Please like, subscribe, and share your opinions below if you would like to see more untold stories from Hollywood's greatest icons. "What's going on here?" asks the manager. "She won't let us sit down," this woman added. "We would like to go sit down." "But Mr. Batten," I responded, referring to his given name. I declared, "It's Hitchcock." You understand, through the Carol Burnett show, Carol Burnett made America laugh for a lifetime. Her admirers have always thought that she never harbored resentment and that her generosity had no bounds. However, in her 90s,